Welcome to the podcast, More to Life with Faith and Lois.
I'm Faith.
And I'm Lois.
Our podcast is an adventure to consider life's moments that inspire and daunt us.
And on the heels of our preview podcast, we are thrilled to bring you episode 2.
Today, we explore, how do you bring your dreams to life?
What an exciting concept for us to go through, Faith.
Very exciting. And what a great time of year to begin to talk about this.
I know, at the start of a new year. You know, I guess I've always been afraid of dreams. I'll be right up front because sometimes I think that they're too lofty. They may not be grounded in what I really want to do. And what the heck would I do if I failed?
That's always a big question. The failure factor is always big when we're looking at our dreams. And oftentimes is the very reason why we don't even step into considering them, or in exploring them, or to check them out. And so fear is a factor.
It sure is, because I want to have an aspiration or look ahead to something that might be a little bigger than myself. But occasionally I stop and I wonder if I'll be humiliating myself if I actually try that.
That's the ultimate worst fear.
It is,
like, please don't humiliate me or shame me in front of the whole wide world. And that's how grandiose and big we can think our dreams can be, and also how much they can fail. And so if we dream big, we think they will fail big, and we are going to feel the impact of that. So looking at dreams, I think for me, it's always been breaking them down into what is the desire of my heart? What is the passion? What is the interest? And to begin to sort through it piece by piece and taking it down in smaller bites.
I think that's exactly what happened in how we even got the idea, even in this germ form for More to Life.
Absolutely.
Because it was a couple of years ago, we were speaking together, and we just kept talking after this engagement. You know, it was funny because one of my sons actually asked me today, so how did this happen with you and Faith? How did you pick her? How did she pick you? And I said, that's a really good question.
How did this happen?
But it was a dream.
It was
for
a
me.
dream.
It was a kind of a vision, something I was seeing, except I didn't know what that looked like.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why we need to explore, because it's not always revealed. We think sometimes dreams come to us and there's a knock on the door and we open it and there's a man standing there or a woman standing there with a silver platter with our dream on it. And then we grab hold of it and we step into it. It doesn't work that way. It comes with something that begins to stir the same way that it did 2 years ago for you.
And it stirred in something I didn't even know, but I knew it had to do with you. And is that what started happening for you?
Absolutely.
I mean, as we're talking about dreams here, we might as well be honest that this is a dream for us.
It is a dream. And yours was a real interest. And when you began to consider podcasts, I'll be honest, I didn't know what a podcast was. And because I haven't listened to very many of them, but it expanded my horizon to begin to say, wow, this is an opportunity for me to step into speaking, which has been the desire of my heart for 2 years. I've been wanting to do more speaking, and this has now given me an avenue to do that. So a dream that I had and a dream that you had, they intersected, and it's now our dream.
So today we're talking about how do you bring your dream to life? And we went through some steps that were conscious and some that were not. And I think that's part of the dream too, right? We don't always know exactly what we're doing.
We don't. We just have to explore. It's an adventure. Instead of it being something that there's a dream and all at once, somehow we put the pieces into place and now there it is. It comes to fruition very quickly. No, it's exploration. And you begin to explore, what is it that I like about this? What is it that I want to know more about this? Does it still excite me? And I use kind of that that pacing within myself to know, where am I at in my dream? Am I still interested? And if so, why? And to keep pursuing that.
And so if you're still interested, that's a sign to keep going.
Without question. If you begin to lose interest, you ask the question again. Now, why am I losing interest in this? It may be an obstacle. It may be something that just we kind of stumble over and that we can overcome. And sometimes it can be something unresolved within us that we want to dig a little deeper and like, wait a minute, what's holding me back here? But other times it can just be, this isn't quite it. And so it's learning to listen to ourselves and to understand if a dream holds interest or begins to lose that interest.
What I like about all of this, as we've been gelling in the past months and years, is that it's not something that has to happen overnight for it to actually even be real. Because I think we're such a now society where if I think of this, it's going to happen. I'm going to, create this out of thin air. But sometimes it just takes these little steps, many months apart, coming back together, and you said it. You still have the interest.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And to give up that, it's a fantasy. Actually, it's a fantasy that we can snap our fingers and the genie's going to suddenly give it to us. And we have to move from fantasy into the fullness of reality of what does it take to see our dreams realized. And that's whether it's in business or with its relationships or whatever it is that we're reaching out for, to honor it enough to say, I will commit and dedicate good, healthy time to this so that it can grow and become all it's meant to be.
And so as I was thinking about this dream, here's a quote that I found from Arthur Ashe, tennis player. My husband absolutely thinks he's, one of his favorites on the planet. But he has this quote that I love. And it says, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And for me, that was like a triumvirate of where we have been, where we are right now in terms of more to life with Faith and Lois and how we're putting this together. But the first thing was, kind of start where you are, like find this vision. So first see it. Even if I didn't know exactly what it looked like, I had to use my eyes or my imagination to see something because I couldn't just go from no place. So I had to start where I am.
And imagination is the very thing that just comes into a solid, something tangible that we can imagine and grab hold of in such a way that there's life there right in it. And so what we want to do is let that imagination grow and develop. But so many people, including myself, have stumbled over what we can imagine, is that we can't take it to the next step. And that next step is really critical.
It really is. But even that first step, like some people use vision boards. Some people write down, they'll do anything, or they write, or they tell somebody.
Right.
They almost like take a poll. Like, what do you think of this? So, and while that's not the best thing, for me, that's a little helpful because then I get some resonance like, oh, I might be interested in that. Or if there's absolutely no interest in that.
Sure.
And then also just using, I think the vision piece that I like for me is that I look at the skill set that I may or may not possess. It doesn't mean I can't have a dream outside of my skill set, but how do I use those talents, those abilities, those gifts, whatever you want to call them, to move in the next direction?
Absolutely. You have to find what you are capable of doing and what really comes naturally to you. Vision and imagination of what we dream about should be flowing into who we really are. And how it's a natural for us. Here's a really good example. If someone were to say, I really want you to become the most amazing calculus ever, and I had that vision that I could become the most amazing calculus ever, I would fail. I would totally bomb out. I'm not a mathematician. So why would I dream of becoming the greatest mathematician ever? And so the point being is that that's not what it's about. It's about, it flows out of who you are and the desires and the dreams and the passions and the character of everything that you're made up of is where that imagination and then the dreams come from that as well.
So it doesn't mean then, just what you said about calculus, if I have a dream to be something that isn't in my wheelhouse, so to speak, is that something that could never happen?
No, I think it can morph into more, there's something about what you're dreaming about that is, you need to find out what is that. Why am I dreaming about this? And if I really did want to be a mathematician, I would look at it seriously and go, wow, what is it about being a mathematician that draws me?
Yeah.
Because it's certainly not the math. So what is it? And it might be, the very thing that's one of my passions, like I said before, is speaking. That if I were a great mathematician, I'd be in front of a big audience speaking about this new formula I found. And so, and maybe it's about discovery within me, because I love to discover new things. And so there's always these things that are hidden, and mathematicians find the things that are hidden. And so I would take it apart, and I would find, what is it that is stirring my heart, even though it's not that particular thing.
Interesting. And yet, and that's so true, that maybe we're going to find something out of our comfort zone, but many times it is within our comfort zone, and we keep coming back to it. And I think what I love is we just kept coming back to this idea.
Yes,
we didn't know what it was, but then in order to make it real, we named it. We did. Do you remember that? For weeks we were going back and forth. No, I don't like this. No, I don't like this. Now try that. No. and we had to find, but once you name it,
yes,
then there's a different kind of ownership to it than ever before, because then we capture, this is what we want to do.
It took on a whole new energy and focus and direction. And the interesting part about when we named it, I could then see it. And that's how it works for me. I have to see something more that comes through words. And when we had a name for it, then my mind went crazy, and my heart began to explore and imagine all kinds of things we could do with this.
Right. And the second step for what Arthur Ashe suggests is use what you have. And that's very much in line with the vision, because it's going into, what we're comfortable with. But what I loved that it made me do was it made me shine a spotlight on those things that I do have. Because I think most of the time, let me get an expert to do this or to answer this question or whatever. And when we're having these dreams, we actually start digging, tapping, and literally saying, I've got this.
Absolutely.
And that's wild.
I know. We limit ourselves in so many different ways by thinking that we can't, which is a death sentence to our dreams. There is no, we hear a lot of times, and we think it's just positive thinking of, yes, you can. You can do. If you can dream it, you can do it. To an extent, you have to weave who you are into that. Then you can do it. And that's drawing from who you were created to be, and the talents and the gifts and the abilities and your qualities and your character and everything that stirs you. And when you put that into it, then yes, you start seeing it come to fruition.
And then this mindset that you have, that we all have on some level, begins to change. At least mine did. It started to grow with all of the work that I put into it, and realized, I've got this, you've got that. These, abilities can work together, and it's working with what we have, by the way. We didn't go cherry picking from someplace else, just where we were. Suddenly, everything started to grow where this can't fail. I mean, what does failure look like? It just means then we'll try a different angle or something like that. But that's what started to happen to me when I looked at what we had, what we both, the shared commonalities we had that could make something like this work.
Absolutely. And as much as we have a lot of things that are very similar and alike, we're very different. And the talents and the gifts and everything we were talking about are very different. But it works. It works. And because there's something at the core of it that says it applies to both of us. And that's a dream fulfilled for each of us in a different and unique way. And so I just encourage, everyone who listens to this, that your dreams are the most amazing, beautiful nugget you've been handed. Don't let that nugget disappear.
Right.
Just fuel it, look at it, hold it, grasp it, imagine it, see it grow. Imagine above and beyond what you could ever have imagined it could be, and see what happens. It's just fun. It's a journey.
Right.
What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't come to fruition. You didn't fail.
No.
It takes you on another path to discover a new dream.
Yeah. Well, and then the final step that I love that Arthur Ashe makes sure that we kind of all cling to is do what you can. Because I think if we don't act on this, we could have this vision. We could look at all of our skill sets and say, oh, yeah, this could really work. But it takes that next step of not only just digging in and looking at what we have, but actually doing it. And that's the scary part.
That is the scary part. That is the scary part. The actual saying, okay, I'm going to take take that first step. I mean, we can maybe even take half a dozen steps, but it's that next 10 or 12 or 15 we have to take that begin to be intimidating. And of course, that's part of the journey. But I always say to myself, come back to, am I still interested? Is this still somewhere inside that there's something about this I want to pursue? And if I do, I keep going. And don't let the obstacles, stop you from it. You do have to take action to see it come into reality form.
Right. And like for this podcast that we're doing, we had to collaborate. So we had to, blend our ideas there. We had to design and decide how we wanted this to come across and kind of what our messaging is. So we would go back and forth with lots of documents, this is what you thought, this is what I thought. And then here's the weird part. We were thinking along the same lines with verbiage that was slightly different, but that came together in an intersection. Now, is that just because we were both dreaming? And I mean, that's kind of bizarre, Faith. It's not like we even live close to each other.
No, we don't. No, I do think we're in sync. We're and that's the dream has taken a form for us. And so when it begins to take a form for two people, which is really good to remember if you're interested in relationships, that oftentimes if you're looking for a friendship or a romantic relationship, it's going to gel. You're going to have similar interests. If you don't, you might think about it. But this is the beauty of a dream taking form within two and coming to life, and it's the same.
That's really cool. So we happened to do it with this. I think I just wanted to walk through just because to say that, we really dreamed for this. But I know that a lot of people who are having dreams are going to be doing them solo because most people aren't going to be this fortunate. And I mean that, although other people may think, no, I'm a lot luckier because I can do it all by myself, whatever it is that your passion is. But those kinds of steps as you go through, how do you stay interested in something that you really love, Faith? If it starts to fall away, but you really feel like, this is something I should be doing, that's got to be hard.
It is hard, and that's where inspiration comes in. If you've got to find the people, the sources that inspire you. A dream is never fueled with nothing. A dream has to be fueled with inspiration. And we were inspiring each other with ideas and things. And so we've been able to do that with each other. But I have had dreams that have been my own, that I've had to see come to life, and visions that I wanted to see become reality. And I did that all on my own for a large portion of it. But I would reach out to other people, and I'd even reach out in definitely in my spiritual life, into reaching into what was being stirred within me and what was God showing me and how is this going to come out. And then I would read people that inspired me, that had similar interests. So inspiration is really the jet fuel for a dream. And whether you have it literally like we have right now, or whether you have to seek it out, but be sure you get inspired by people and by people that you admire.
Well, and staying open. I think for me in the last few months, one of the things that triggered a lot of this happening, even though we were working on this, was writing for me that has just gone to another level because of training that I've taken with some specialized courses that have been unbelievable, this writing into light. And as a result of that, it opened new, like new dimensions in my head and in my heart and in my body that I could be ready for some of these other dreams. So staying open is one of the most critical things I found for me to follow through, like even on a dream like we're having. I couldn't have done that without being open in these other areas because I've become so much more expressive and exactly what you're talking about, listening to people, reading and hanging out with people that we may not all be on the same wavelength on everything, but we have a similar desire to be light and life and bring joy or and it's not all happy, by the way. I still get, I get down. I got down last night. This is the holiday time when, things don't turn out exactly like you think it will. So it's not about being, putting a smile, but it's about a root inside that I feel like there's some space that's been created inside me. that is open.
Absolutely. You got it. And this is not about forced inspiration of come on, go get them, you can do it type thing.
Yeah.
That is going to eventually peter out. What really keeps it going is that core within you that keeps saying, no, go and do and find more, open it up, explore it more, go on the adventure, go higher, change the atmosphere. There's so many different inspirational words that begin to rise up within you as a person, and they've risen up within me over this project. And oh my goodness, it just gets me excited. Yeah. And it's the excitement, I think. It's like there's nothing about this that it doesn't mean you don't get tired or you're not sure about something. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with that ongoing passion that stirs. Mm-hmm. And it's stirring within me, it's stirring within you, and I get excited. So, yeah, it can be a bummer day. So what? It's a bummer day.
Right. And that makes me better the next day, because then I hopefully will have learned something, because I think we all know each other, know other people that struggle with dark periods, whether it's now or another time. And so they say, how can I dream when I'm in this funk? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest time to be dreaming. Mm-hmm. And what I love is all the resources we have. Yeah. We don't just have books out there. We can go online and be inspired on a regular basis. And I just can't encourage people enough that if that is where you are in this funk, if you can't talk to somebody immediately, if you can't email, if you can't go in for good therapy, right. There are places you can go to be inspired. And wow, what a difference that makes than sitting and mm-hmm. ruminating in mm-hmm. the dark cloud that gets around all of us, by the way, all of us. I feel like Linus sometimes with that dust cloud behind me, and Pollyanna on other days. I mean, it depends, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And what inspires you are the things that have inspired you in the past. And there may be movies that have just wrecked you but opened your heart up to something that you never imagined before. Go back to that movie. Look at it again. What was it? Ask questions of yourself. What is it that I'm longing for? What is it that I can imagine myself doing? What is it that I want to dream bigger? And the key thing to that is, if money were not an object, I have had somebody gave me $5 million, what would I be doing? Mm-hmm. Great question to ask, mm-hmm. because it opens up, the limitations of finances has more power over us than what we can imagine. So when you imagine taking that off for fun, something awakens. And I encourage people to do that a lot. And it's so interesting, the things that start coming back. And that's at the core of you. So you want to get to the core of you. What is going on? I do want to touch on one thing, though, too, because, sometimes people really are depressed.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage you. This is not about happy, clappy thinking. This is not about just get out there and do it. You can dream it. You can make it happen. No, if you really are struggling, be sure that you care for yourself. That comes first. And so you want to kind of do an overview of yourself, and I just call a scan, a body, mind, soul, and spirit scan. How am I doing? How am I doing physically? If you're ill, this is hard to be inspired if you're not feeling good. If you struggle with depression, that's going to be really difficult to say, I really feel inspired. You're not going to feel inspired. So that comes first. As much as this podcast is about encouraging and uplifting, I also want to uplift those that might be really down mm-hmm. and really struggling. And this is in no way that you're doing it wrong. It means that comes first. So take care of you. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Take care of your spirit. And find out what's going on. What is happening here? Because I promise you this. From my own experience, that when you care for that, then everything we're talking about comes to life.
And I think when I say you got this, it's not because I do believe that, we'll just, snap and it will all change. But it's because if you do exactly what you're suggesting there and start taking care of yourself and listening, your dreams are going to come sometimes out of sorrow.
Oh my goodness,
and
yes.
and turn into joy. And for me, this has been this year, I've had more loss than I've ever experienced if I was just to like add it up and go, oh my word. And then look at what's happened as a result of that sorrow and that suffering. It's turned into joy. So I completely resonate that when I was down in the dumps, if you'd said, hey, let's go do this, I would, are you out of your mind? Go find somebody else to talk to. And yet it took those dark and those suffering moments for me to say, now this joy is so sweet because I have felt such darkness.
Yes.
And I think that that's one thing that I'm not so afraid of, because when we hit these blocks or even these times in life that make us so sad, I know there really is a silver lining. It's not just about clouds. It's real for me.
It's very real. And it is moving through the sorrow, the grief, the hurt, the betrayal, whatever it is that we've ever been through. We want to avoid it because we don't like it.
Sure.
But the reality is, if you will move through it, on the other side of it is so much more to who you are and to what your dreams are about.
It's so hard to stay there, though.
Oh,
it
is.
And I love when people say, Lois, just stay there because, it's going to be good. And it's like, I don't want to stay there.
I don't want to stay there.
But I need to.
Right. You need to. You need to. Literally every tear I've ever cried through that suffering are treasures to me because of where I'm at now. And I will even tell sometimes my clients, I'll say to them, if I had to do all over again, what I had to go through to be where I'm at now, as awful as that was, I would do it again because this is so good.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a testament to where you are now. I think for me, one of the things too, is we're talking about taking action and moving, if you ever can, if you can get to that place, and believe me, Faith is so right. Be where you are and figure that out. But it is then to believe this dream, because how many times do I read something, talk to somebody, and then an hour later, I'm back in my miry pit. So if it's because I didn't believe it.
Right.
Is that's
right.
part of it. Now, I may not have been ready to move either in my mind, but I think really believing that this can come to fruition. I found that as being like the biggest gift. I can just believe it.
You can believe it. And we need to realize that there is a lie that comes to steal, kill, and destroy it. Always. And the whole point is like, you have to be really adamant about no lie. You cannot have that dream. That is my dream. And no, I'm not going to believe the lies that I'm hearing in my head about you can't, or you shouldn't, or who do you think you are? And you can't do that. Whatever it might be. Those are the lies that really are trying to come to steal, kill, and destroy it. And be determined, be a warrior against it and say, no, that's my dream and you can't have it. And that helps it come to life more.
Right. And I think, when we decided to be so brave in the last few weeks and launched this thing, Faith, I mean, we both went, I don't know. Do people want to hear this? And to get an initial response of just, we don't know what you're doing, but you guys are okay, so we'll at least give this a shot. That's so rewarding, because it is scary to stand at that edge of that precipice and then to dive.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're doing.
We're into the deep end of the pool, but we can swim. And the parts about the swimming that we don't know, we'll figure it out.
I like that, because we can swim, because this is in our wheelhouse. And I mean, it takes me back to that silly quote, but it's not silly, Arthur Ashe. I mean, I appreciate that you said this at one point, but that start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, in light of where you are in this moment in life, I think is just a great measure of how you seek out and form a dream and then bring it up to light.
Absolutely. You've got it. You said it well.
Wow. There you go. That's a little unusual. So look, we're just exactly at our amount of time here. So we want to thank you so much for listening to our first full podcast, How Do You Bring Your Dreams to Life?
Please check out our website and subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing.
And join us next week when we explore how do you handle the detours that get in the way of your dreams.
More to Life with Faith and Lois is a podcast to inspire, encourage, and to uplift.
No matter where you are, there is so much more to life.
We'll be back next week.